This conference will now be recorded.
Very good. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for participating in West Goshen Township's Board of Supervisors meeting on August 18th, 2020. This is a teleconference starting at 7 p.m. The first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Feel free to stand in your home or to sit, whatever makes it easier for you. So I'm going to go ahead and stand this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I see a number of new attendees. Thank you so much for participating in this meeting. So the next statement I'm going to make is just the announcement on the teleconference meeting rules of conduct. If you've been attending these teleconferences, you know that we would like to hear your points of view, and we typically ask you to basically raise your hand, or we typically have you currently on mute, but when we have an opportunity for public comment, we will open up the phones and ask you to share your points of view at that time. So the meeting instructions for supervisors, staff, and professional services providers. At the beginning of the meeting, we will take a roll call for members, staff, and professional service providers present. A roll call of those members of the public present on the teleconference. Each person speaking shall announce their identity at the beginning of comments. Public comment will be permitted only when specifically requested of the public just before each vote is taken or the end of the meeting before adjournment. Public comment will be permitted only, Members of the public shall be muted at all times until the appropriate time for public comment to eliminate background noise, and we thank you for doing that. Each item requiring a vote will proceed with a motion, a second, followed first by member comments and questions, only when prompted by the chair, and then seconded by public comments and questions, but only when prompted by the chair. Voting shall be done by roll call for each member for each vote. Thank you. Okay, we're turning to item number 3, which is the first agenda item, the Westchester Public Library annual presentation.
Shall we go?
Oh, Mary.
Yeah. Hi.
Yes, please take the floor.
Thank you. Victoria and I are here. I am Mary Brooks. I'm on the board of the Westchester Public Library, serving as president this year. And I am here to sincerely thank you for your continued financial support of the library. That tells me that you understand and recognize the important services that we offer to community residents, especially West Goshen residents. Even during our recent closure, we were able to continue offering a variety of programs and materials, and those additional virtual services are still available even though we are now again open. And our director, Victoria Dow, will tell you just a little bit about those. But I just want you to know that the library board takes its fiscal responsibility very seriously, and your allocation is well used to provide library services to the community. So thank you. Victoria, we can't hear you.
Take your time, Victoria. There's usually a place where you can hit the audio button to make sure your mic is on.
We did submit our annual report, so I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, but that gives you a lot of statistics and narrative about what's happening at the library.
Should we try to have Victoria come back on? I'm not sure what's going on.
She'll call in. So however you wish.
Any way we can give her assistance to see if she can get connected with us, Casey?
It could be her or her headphones are interfering with it. I'm not sure if there's a setting on her computer, but
Okay. Mary,
can-
anything you'd like to maybe expand upon since Victoria, we can't hear her?
Right. Well, we were going to describe how we continue to operate during closure through YouTube and Facebook. So as I said, we are continuing to offer services even when we're closed. And we have resumed almost normal operations. Of course, there are some restrictions, but we are continually finding ways to purchase more ebooks, which actually are more expensive than print books. But of course, the demand for ebooks has gone up. We're offering literacy programs to children via Facebook and YouTube. Craft kits have been given away. So even though we can't have groups physically present in the library, we are able to continue a variety of services. And again, I'm sure I don't have to tell you what challenging times these are. So your allocation really is well used and much appreciated.
Well, thank you for everything that you do at the library. I remember going there on almost every weekend to take out 25,000 books by my kids because they could never make a choice that they could just settle on 2 or 3 books. So we're very lucky to have the library in our town, and it's been a joy seeing kids going into the library, trying to keep their voices quiet, looking for their favorite book.
Yes, well, that's what we're there for. And again, thank you for your support.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
Yep, you have our report if anybody wants to see it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Looks like she's fine trying to call in, but we might have to say goodbye. Yeah. Not to worry. If she wants to come back and share more information with us, you're always welcome. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Victoria, if you can hear us. Okay. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is a congressional update for Representative Chrissy Houlihan. And we have Curtis Miller representing Representative Houlihan, who will speak with us now. So he needs his mic turned on.
Did I just unmute myself? Was that successful?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight, taking some time out of your busy schedule, as I saw on the agenda. My name is Curtis Miller. I'm a constituent advocate for Representative Chrissy Houlihan. I'm out of her Westchester office, which I think is actually in West Goshen Township. And we also have an office in Reading and Washington, D.C., obviously. So as she's a new representative, almost 2 years now, in a newly drawn congressional district, we want to go out and introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about her and promote our constituent services and explain how we're able to help her constituents. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just the general information about her, a quick update on constituent services and some metrics of success that we've seen, and then some very brief legislative update on the coronavirus front. So as I said, she's a freshman and she represents this newly redrawn district, which is all inclusive of the entire portion of Chester County and then the southern portion of Berks County. We have our 3 offices in Westchester and Reading. We're open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, but then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're also open from an additional 2 hours until 7. Right now, we're all working remotely, but once we are back in the office, those hours will be reinstated. In DC, she sits on the Armed Services, the Foreign Affairs, and the Small Business Committees, as those are kind of her expertises. She was a veteran from the Air Force, so having been in the Armed Services, she understands that perspective in foreign affairs, and then she's also been a businesswoman herself. So as I said, we're reaching out to all of the municipalities in her district. This should be the second time someone is touching base with you. I believe we were able to meet with all of the boards of supervisors last year. But as of to date, we've closed 1,500 cases, just over 1,500 cases. And that's ranging from anything from Social Security to the VA, Medicare, if you have a passport issue. And through that advocacy, we've been able to return $3.2 million to the district. And so Christy is very metrics driven. She was a businesswoman herself, and she cares very much about data and statistics. So she wants to make sure that she's running a profitable business in a sense. So she wants to make sure that she's returning as much money to the district through constituent advocacy as she's charging from her congressional budget. And so we've returned, I believe it's about 1.2 million we get every turn for salaries and such. So we've returned well over that. So we're pretty happy about that. We've fielded over 130,000 calls, emails, and letters since she took office in January 2019. And since COVID-19 started, we've fielded over 36,000. So it's been a market increase. So if you've written in and it's taken a little bit longer to get a response from us, I do apologize, but that's what we're working with. And we do try to, we call everyone back that calls in. So that's our main constituent advocacy, but we also have some district work that we do for special projects, such as the Congressional Art Competition, the Congressional App Challenge, and the Veterans History Project. So those first two are for high school and middle school students. They're specific these competitions that we can nominate and award them for their actions. And we've had 26 town halls. A lot of those have been phone town halls. We had one with the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Karen Bass, to talk about criminal justice reform. We've had them to talk about energy and the environment, about workforce development, usually around a theme so that Christy and panelists that she invites are able to have a meaningful, substantive conversation. And we promote those through usually our newsletters, which you can subscribe to through our website. And before I go into legislation, the one thing I do want to promote, especially at these municipal meetings, is that we're able to provide letters of support for any federal grants that you apply for. So a lot of times we hear municipalities are applying for a grant for an infrastructure project or what have you. So if that grant is competitive in any way, you can reach out and you can either reach out to me. I know you all have my contact information, or by calling us, and we'll put you in touch with our district staffer who handles grant support letters. And we've seen a lot of success through that. So now, as I said, just really quick with a quick legislative update, she did vote for HR 6201, which was the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and that was largely about food security and health measures to address the pandemic. She voted for the CARES Act, which was largely economic in nature. It was a broad range of measures intended to stimulate the economy and also to address the health threat posed by the coronavirus. It provided funding for many small businesses in the form of loans and grants. It also provided funding for school districts to purchase technological resources so students can continue instruction, and it included the $1,200 rebates that went to many individuals. She introduced HR 6822, the National Public Health Corps Act of 2020, which would create a national public health service program to respond to public health emergencies, such as the current coronavirus pandemic. She's voted for the HR 6800, the HEROES Act, which includes a broad range of measures intended to address the pandemic, including assistance for states and local governments, another round of $1,200 rebates for individuals, and modifications to the Paycheck Protection Program. Lastly, she also introduced HR 7777, which would expedite forgiveness of loans under the Paycheck Protection Program for businesses that applied for less than $150,000. So that wasn't as brief as you had hoped, or maybe even I, but we've been very busy in her first year and a half, 2 years, but I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Robin, I'm going to unmute the callers. Actually, there's only a couple left. And I also need to establish where Hugh is calling from, so I'm going to ask him to go first, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, Hugh, thank you. You're number 5. Could you speak again, please, Hugh? I'm sorry.
5 again.
Okay, you're caller number 6. Very good. Thank you.
I'm 6.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, was there a question?
I don't think
Okay, I don't hear anybody asking any questions. So Robin, I guess we're
Okay.
concluded
Ask any
with,
questions. We're all of our contact information is on Chrissy's website, which is houlihan.house.gov. So again, we're just really promoting constituent services. So one thing, for example, that we've seen a lot of in the past month is constituents who have not received their $1,200 rebate check from the CARES Act. So if you or anyone you know has not, and they're a constituent of Pennsylvania's 6th district, encourage them to reach out and we can help. Again, we can help with any federal agency. And I will end by saying that there was some difficulty in getting in contact with, like, my emails were not being sent. So for example, Casey, I tried to respond to your email and I've been trying to get you an answer. It's just been technologically difficult to respond. My emails aren't being delivered. So I'm going to keep trying. I just want you to don't think that I'm ignoring you. But again, any constituent services requests, please do call us or reach out through our website. Any questions about legislation, do the same. And everyone have a great night. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Curtis.
Yeah, thank you, Curtis, for making these
Got
presentations.
it.
Very helpful. Even though it was quite a bit of information, I was keeping up with it, which was great. Thank you.
Very informational.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay,
That
we're now,
was very interesting. Thank you.
okay, we're going to now move to item number 5, reports for the month of July 2020. And we have Chief Gleason in the audience so that he can make our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the month of July, the West Goshen Police Department responded to 1,976 calls for service. We responded to 64 alarms, 3 of which were valid. We investigated 15 reportable motor vehicle accidents and 15 non-reportable motor vehicle accidents. And we logged 22,815 miles on our patrol vehicles. Among other locations, selective enforcement was active on South Five Points Road, the Route 100 Spur, Eagle Road, Route 202, South Concord Road, West Warren Road, and Green Hill Road. I know there was some traffic complaints filed with regard to South Five Points Road, so I just wanted to give you an update on the activity that was there since June 1st. We've had 41 traffic follow-ups there, which means that an officer has actually staged themselves there for traffic monitoring randomly throughout shifts. There has been 8 speed sign deployments placed down off South Five Points Road. There have been 2 actual speed details with multiple officers that conducted speed enforcement, and a total of 37 traffic citations were issued primarily for speeding. Career development, our officers continue with their daily training bulletins through our Lexipol program, and our ERT team did their monthly training, and officers are still continuing with their yearly recertifications through the PA Virtual Training Network. And we've taken on another online training because obviously with the pandemic, a lot of in-person trainings have been canceled. So we've taken on Police One, which is a offshoot training module of Lexipol. And 3 of the mandated trainings that we officers have attended have been anti-bias training, anti-harassment training, and de-escalation training. In addition to 80% of our department is currently CIT, Crisis Intervention certified through a national certification course. Obviously, with the headlines, the global events that have taken place, I've been asked to just give a very brief update and overview of our use of force policy. And to give everyone a brief overview of what's been happening here, we've had 3 community meetings with the Westchester Alliance for Social Justice. And 2 of those 3 meetings were attended by the president of the NAACP, Kyle Boyer. And many things were discussed over those meetings. And I know 2 of our township supervisors attended the most recent one. Some of it was had to do with body cameras and our process going forward with them, our training. And a lot of it had to do with our use of force policy and how we, based on recent events, have taken on a review of that policy. And I know some of the topics that have been of interest to people, and the carotid control hold, or choke holds, as some people refer to them as. They're in our policy, but they are absolutely prohibited. The only way that an officer can accurately perform one of them is if he is trained in it and he receives a letter of approval from me, none of which I have ever issued. Two of our primary training with regard to our crisis intervention and so forth is de-escalation. And that is actually two places within our policy. It is in our use of force policy, and it is in our mental health policy as well. So a lot of focus has been redirected on de-escalation as the primary course of which to take a mental health patient or a volatile situation, and our efforts are obviously to de-escalate rather than escalate. Duty to intervene, we adjusted that policy, so officers are now obligated, required to intervene when they see a potential excessive force situation, and they're required to file a report with their supervisors immediately upon notification of that. And our force continuum, we utilized the reasonable objectiveness that the Supreme Court issued back in 1989 as our course for which our standard during the course of the use of force situation takes place. So for the past 5 years, our data has shown that every incident where use of force takes place, and that means it could be a physical use of force, it could be a firearm, it could be a taser use of force, anything short of just a compliant arrest, where we either have to go hands-on physical or a deployment of a taser or a mace or whatever, requires an officer to file a use of force report. And through the past 5 years, we have had a total of 97 reports of use of force. Understand as well that our use of force report requires the discharge of a firearm, obviously, but that also includes the euthanization of a deer on the roadway, rabid raccoon, whatever. So of those 97 incidents of use of force, 70 were having to do with the destruction of an injured animal. 11 were taser deployments, and 8 were physical restraints, and that's over a 5-year period. Some of the other issues discussed at these meetings were the fact that our community engagement, our training, the data, and how that is very important moving forward. So we're looking at ways to specify more data than we have been able to collect in years past. And again, our hiring process, which I know we've recently gone through, and moving forward, I'm sure that will be a continual course of review. So that's it for my presentation, and I thank you all for the time.
Thank you, Chief Gleason. Do we have any residents who have any questions that they might want to ask of Chief Gleason now?
Yeah, I have a question, Bob, if I may. It's actually a report, Chief, very detailed. Couple questions. On your selective enforcement areas, you mentioned South Five Points Road and West Warren Road was another. What's your criteria for determining where you're going to exercise selective enforcement for traffic safety?
Well, our traffic safety unit is very engaged with the public, so they're always getting emails or phone calls, or during the course of their normal residential patrols, people may stop them and inquire about what activities we are doing, or they indicate that there is an issue or a problem there. So our traffic safety unit is constantly keeping a list, for lack of better words, of issues where residents are reporting various issues that are of concern to them. So every 2 weeks, the traffic sergeant sends me an email requesting that the agency concentrate on 2 specific areas, one in the north sector, one in the south sector, because that's how our patrol sectors are broken up. And so I put an email out to all of the officers in the agency, advising them that these are 2 concentrated areas that residents are concerned about. And I know you were actively involved in the South Five Points Road report from one of the residents there. And so that's basically how it comes about for us, at least to me. Yes.
Okay, good deal. My second question was, can you give us an update on the acquisition of body cameras for all the officers?
They have been ordered, but obviously with the COVID situation, everything was on hold for several months. And then we had applied for a grant to purchase the additional body cameras that we had asked for last year in the budget that were not authorized. So the grant process was rather arduous. Lieutenant Demedio was handling that. Everything has been approved and everything has been ordered. It's just a matter of getting it in. And then once it's deployed to the officers, WatchGuard will come out and do a 3-day training for all the officers and familiarize them with the new systems. And then they'll be up and running. And I am hoping, obviously before year's end is what I would hope for, that we are completely up and running with all new material.
Okay, so that was my next question, what your timeline was. All right, thank you very much, Chief. Good, thank you.
We have time for a couple of questions for Chief Gleason. Anyone any residents would like to have a conversation with Chief?
Madam Chair, there's a couple of callers that are on the phone. I'm not sure they're lit. I'm not sure if they have questions.
Okay, so if you do have a question, could you please identify yourself?
Okay, we're good then.
Okay, thank you, Chief Gleason. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 6, which is the Board of Supervisors announcements. Mr. Walsh, would you like to go first this evening?
Sure, thanks, Robin. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not having my video on this evening. I've had some technical difficulties. If I use my video, I tend to lose my connection to the GoToMeeting event. So just voice only, I'm afraid, tonight. So I have 3 announcements for you this evening. The first one is that there was a meeting of the Joint Sewer Authority and Board of Supervisors Committee back on July the 29th. A financial model for the 10-year 2021 through 2030 Sewer Authority capital improvement projects and potential funding options was presented to the committee by the Sewer Authority Treasurer, and it was intended to provide the committee with an understanding of that 10-year period. Subsequently, the August 12th regular meeting of the authority board approved making a formal request for a transfer in the 2021 West Goshen Township budget from the Township Sewer Reserve Fund to the West Goshen Sewer Authority, a request for $1 million. Specifically, the West Goshen Sewer Authority Board requested the funds be transferred in 2 payments of $500,000 each. The first payment was requested to be made on August the 1st, 2021, and the second payment on November the 1st, 2021. These funds will be used to pay for the ongoing projects that are in the authority's capital improvement plan. And it should be noted that the request for continued project funding by the authority is expected to be an annual process. We've also got some great news this week regarding grant applications that were made by the authority to the Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Grant Program. The Commonwealth Financing Authority announced that the West Goshen Sewer Authority will be receiving grant money in the amount of $910,896 for our sewer line replacement work and for an improvement project that we have earmarked at the South Concord Road treatment plant. So that's really excellent news that we will be receiving these funds, which will contribute towards our capital plans that the authority has. My second announcement is regarding planned budget workshops. I've spoken about these previously in terms of what I believe would be an improvement to our budget setting process in the township. So we have 2 workshops scheduled, one on August the 25th and one on September the 1st. And the intention or the goal of these workshops is to enable early public discussion and input into the 2021 budget setting process. They're on back-to-back weeks, so depending on your availability, if you would like to attend as a member of the public, just pick one. And again, the dates are August the 25th at 7 p.m. and Tuesday, September the 1st at 7 p.m. The focus of the workshops really is to explain our 2020 budget numbers and ask for public feedback and input on the categories and the amount of spend that we have. And the intention is that these discussions would give us good resident perspectives as we begin at the township our 21 budget process. It's also an excellent opportunity for members of the public to learn about the township general fund budget itself. And again, it's about taking your comments into consideration as we look at the budget for 2021. The meetings will have the same exact material. So again, just attend one if you would like. I will chair the sessions on behalf of the board, and Derek Davis, Assistant Township Manager, and Christine Riffey, the Finance Director, will manage the presentations. And the information about these meetings, these workshops, is available on our website, and you can see it in the calendar section of the website. And then my third and final announcement is that the township received at the end of July the final report from AccuFacts, which is our consultant that specializes in pipeline technical safety issues. And the report was on Energy Transfer Partners ME2 pipeline. John Hellman and myself had follow-up technical questions that have subsequently been answered by Richard Kupowitz, who's the president of AccuFacts. And I would like to make a motion tonight to authorize Casey to publish both the report and the Q&A responses to the township website.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. So we will go ahead and open up to public comment.
I just see anybody who's on the phone if they have any questions.
And Lisa, this is Doug. I'm fine. Thanks.
Okay, you're good. Sure.
Hearing no other comments from any other residents, we'll go ahead and do the roll call. So I'll start with Sean.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Ashley.
Aye.
Hugh.
Aye.
Robin, aye. Thank you, Sean, for your announcements.
You're welcome.
All very helpful, and hopefully most of the residents will be able to participate through a virtual meeting again on those 2 dates. Okay, moving on to the next supervisor who might have announcements. John?
Sure, I'll go. Several announcements. First of all, regarding traffic issues, I had a meeting with couple of the officers from the traffic division, as Chief Gleason mentioned, on July the 14th regarding traffic speeding along South Points Road, and we discussed options to slow down the traffic. There was also a problem with a manhole cover right there at the intersection of Warren Road, West Warren Road and South Five Points Road, which also was addressed. So that was, thank you very much for that. And following up on this, I contacted the chief regarding residents' concerns about on-street parking along West Warren Road, and this is ongoing discussion we have. Also, several residents complain about the bollards erected on the shoulder of Westchester Pike, close to the shopping center. These bollards had limited travel by bikers and several area residents on motorized wheelchairs. These bollards were forcing people to venture out into the roadway, creating an unsafe situation. So I contacted our township engineer, explained that there was a highway occupancy permit from PennDOT. And then I followed up by getting in touch with PennDOT District 6 and explained explained to them the situation. They came up with a solution, and 2 of those ballots were removed yesterday to allow folks walking along or traveling along the border there to be able to get past those structures without having to go into the roadway. And tomorrow we've invited Officer Virgilio of the Traffic Division to meet with some Glen Acres retirees to get a sense of how the neighbors might feel about getting painted lines along Glen Avenue to encourage drivers to slow down. At one point there was a 15-mile posted signs, but they had to be taken down because the speed limit cannot be enforced at that limit. So 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs were put up, and as a result, there was concern about increased traffic speed. So we'll see how that plays out. On August the 5th, I attended a meeting with the police chief and the command staff, as he mentioned in his report, and that was very informative. I think everybody involved in that meeting felt there was a good engagement there between the police department of West Goshen and the community folks, particularly following the George Floyd death. So I'm sure these are going to be continuing into the future. And myself and Hugh Purnell, who both attended, I know I certainly would like to be involved with that process as it continues on. I find that very important that we continue that. On July the 22nd, I had a meeting with Andrea Costa and also with Casey Ladon and Lisa discussing about our emergency operations plan. And it is the final responsibility of the Board of Supervisors for this plan. Copies of them will be given to the supervisors after the promulgation pages has to be signed by you, Robin. And that should be hopefully shortly. We should all have copies of that. Also, Lisa and Andrea are going to be reaching out to the quarterly emergency management training that they'll be having, which I believe already occurred, and finding out if there's any addition of pipeline emergencies to the plan. As you read the plan, you'll find it does not have any specification at all about dealing with response to any pipeline emergencies. And I quite frankly think we need to address that. Also, Andrew's going to reach out to the county hazmat chief to see if there can be some training from Sunoco or to get some contact information from them to get some of that training. We need to develop some coordination, in my mind, between the township and the county and Sunoco Logistics regarding any possible pipeline emergencies that might occur. That concludes my report.
Thank you, John. You've been very busy. Thank you for looking into all those issues. Okay, Ashley or Hugh?
Can you hear me first of all? Is my mic working?
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't working in the beginning. Sure, I just have a quick update about the police chief search. The job posting is now on pachiefs.org. You can go see it. It's up. We've given them about a month to collect applications, and resumes and applications will begin review on September 3rd, and that's when the deadline is. And then after that, I'm sure we'll have another meeting and some more updates for you.
Great, thank you. Hugh, anything that you want to share?
Yes, John and I attended, as he mentioned, the police meeting, and I found that informative also. We had a discussion, a brief discussion with the chief, and he decided to go along with it about the liaison to the schools and to the younger members of our community to bring them along and in a, how do we say it, a good attitude towards the police department, or improving their attitude towards the police department. I found that worthwhile, and I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. My announcement is that in the wake of the COVID 2-week time period, back in March of this year, the board had an opportunity to discuss a way to move forward with preparing a plan to be prepared if COVID continues to spike and we as a township are put in a position where we have challenges with respect to keeping people appropriately employed, and also evaluating our financial position as we go through what could be another stay-at-home shut-in order by the state. I hope that's not the case, but as we all would like to see, is an opportunity to discuss that with department heads. Mr. Lalonde and I are planning on meeting with department heads next week to start a discussion about what would be needed in terms of how we would make good decisions about the people that might need to be let go, adjustments that may be needed in terms of how people were working and being staffed for safety reasons. Just having another view of it and thinking of it from a big picture point of view, and starting to put some decisions or some processes in place so that we as board members can be effective in providing appropriate guidance, feedback, learning from the processes, as well as wanting to make sure we're safeguarding this health and safety, not only of our employees, but of our residents who would then also want to be coming back into the building if possible for them. So that will start next week. We're going to be talking just broadly in the beginning, and then drilling down into probably more detail about how we can ensure that we keep essential employees working because they're necessary for projects that are being done, and also being sensitive to the fact that this is a concerning time if we were to have to lay off people. And we want to have better understanding of that process, as well as reaching out to some of our advisors in terms of things that we'll need to consider. And that's it for my announcement. Okay, next item is item number 7, Township Manager's announcements. Mr. Lalonde.
Good evening, everyone. I do want to turn it back, if I may, Ms. Stuntebeck, to Victoria Dow. She was able to connect. So if we could just have her do her quick overview. Just let me unmute her and make sure she is caller number 8. Victoria, can you hear us? Nope. Victoria?
Not Victoria.
Okay. All right. For 5 attendee. Just bear with me for a second. All right, Victoria, can you hear me? Nope. Okay. Gotta love GoToMeeting. Let's see.
It's got to be something on her end, right?
Yeah, there's I have unmuted everybody who would be calling in. So, Robin, if we may have her come back next month, because it's just not working. Okay, sorry, Victoria. We'll have you back in September, if that's okay with you. Thank you to you and Mary for attending tonight.
Thank you, Victoria.
Okay, so let me move on to my announcements. I have 2 announcements. One is very good. We applied for and received 2 grants. The board had previously approved 2 installations of electric vehicle chargers. We have received $9,000 per installation site for a total of $18,000. This is part of the Volkswagen emissions settlement. And we have construction starting on the location at the Township Building within a couple of weeks. And construction at Community Park will commence as soon as PECO installs a new service on Fern Hill Road to connect into the park. It'll be 2 charging nodes per unit. So we'll have 4 charging nodes, and they'll be part of the ChargePoint nationwide electric vehicle charging system. So people who are traveling in the area can look on their smartphone or computer and find those charging stations and use them, and they'll be open to the public. The township will receive revenue to cover the electrical cost. So it's just a great service that we're offering the public, and I want to thank the board for agreeing to fund those 2 installations. My second announcement, it's not so good. As you all recall, we had what turned out to be a 500-year storm event. Now, I guess 2 weeks ago with the tropical storm that hit us. We've been working on the Ravens Lane stormwater project for about a year now, and I'd like Rick Craig and Dave Woodward to chime in here as well. But we suffered more damage on the pipe route, so we are now in a position where we need to fix the pipe sooner than later. If the board is amenable, I have pictures. If you'd like to see them, I can share my screen to show some of the damage that has been ongoing. It's pretty indicative of what we have. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, and Ravens 1. Oh, actually, it's open. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, if you can all see that, that is a we use the televising equipment that the sewer department has, and that's the interior of Ravens Lane, one of the sections of pipe. You can see the deteriorated, it's all corrugated metal pipe, so it's deteriorated on the bottom, which is the brown area, and then the top is starting to cave in as well. So that's just one of the areas. This is further down the pipe on Eagle Road. You can see that caved in area. You can see the pipe outflowing to the street. I'm sorry, to the stream. So that's indicative when we first started getting reports of the sinkholes. That's what we're seeing along the pipe, because the pipe starts to collapse because it's deteriorated so much. And this goes back to the mid 60s as an installation. And here's one more. Let me see. Let me see, just bear with me. No, that's one right there. And this is one of the inlets. You can see, again, televised. You can see the bottom of the pipe is completely washed out and starting to deteriorate to nothing. And what I'd like, I'm seeking board's approval tonight to expedite this process, similar to what you did with the North Hill spillway, which was about to collapse our road. We're getting to the point where this is a similar problem. We have backyards that are going to start caving in. So I'm seeking approval tonight for the board to expedite this as an emergency, if that is amenable to the board.
Casey,
Hey,
can you?
I'll make the motion.
Can we hear from Dave a little bit about the size of the project and what was in plan for this year and what he's proposing now?
Yep.
Yeah, what's the game plan here?
Sure. We cut the overall scope about in half because it was just taking too long. From Glen Avenue North is going to be a later project, and there's a second piece. There's actually a second piece that ties into the pipe that you're looking at. That'll be a phase 2. We cut it down. It's roughly about just over 800 lineal feet of pipe. Goes between 48 to 72 inch pipe. Anything else you want, Sean?
Well, if I could ask, are you planning on trenching this and digging this thing up and putting in new pipe, or are you going to put a pipe inside of this to insert it?
No, this one's too far gone. We can't line this one. This one has to be an open dig.
Okay.
And the corrugated metal will come out and plastic will go back in.
And what size pipe will be going back in?
There's three different sizes. It starts out at 48, then it goes to 54, then it goes to 72 inch. Works its way larger as it goes downstream.
So you're going to maintain that dimension as they are now?
Yeah.
So
Dave,
how is that area seeped off now? I mean, it appears from the pictures that Casey just showed, there's imminent danger here. I mean, we're talking somebody walking and then falling down into this pipe. Is this thing right now seeped off in any way so that people know that there's a danger not to go over top of this?
No, we've made a couple temporary repairs at some of the bad spots. There's one hole, but it's in between some pine trees and we have a barrel over it. You really can't get near it, but with the trees and all, we can't get in there and there's really no pipe. That's actually the first picture that Casey showed you is that spot. There's not, we can't even make a temporary repair there because there's nothing to tie into.
Dave, what was the, has this changed the scope of what you were doing at all, or is it just accelerating the project spend? And if that's the case, what were we planning to spend this year, and what will we spend if we give you the emergency authorization?
We were looking at $900,000 to $1 million for this job in total. Doing this section, which is the worst section that has the most imminent problems. Engineer estimates right now are $350,000 to $450,000, depending on some materials and whatnot, what we're looking at right now.
And this had been in our capital plan as is in terms of the scope, either to start this year or finish it next year. It was always part of what we knew we had to spend money on for stormwater as a priority, correct?
Right. It just got, once Carroll Engineering got into it, it just got into a quagmire with, there's a bunch of pipes. We don't have any good records on this when it was put in. And it's just, it's taken them a long time to try to figure out what we have in there. And we really don't have the time to keep going with that. So that's why we know this is the worst piece. We have it pretty well engineered. We want to move with it right now.
Okay, one last question. What's the risk that the project balloons up in cost when you get into the actual work because of things you can't anticipate right now in terms of access or other risks to cost and schedule?
Well, there's always the unknown once you get in, but it's pretty well defined.
Yeah, you got good visibility of it. You can see.
Yeah, I mean, we could run into groundwater issues, something like that you won't know until you're there.
Yeah. Okay.
Just curious, Dave, there's a running stream going through that. How are you going to handle that during the installation of the new pipe?
Well, that'll be bypass pumped. So the contractor will bring big pumps in and we'll actually pipe or pump from, if they're working on one section, we'll just pump it around into the inlet further down from where they are.
Okay. Any idea how long this project's going to take once it gets started? Or for the first phase?
You're probably a good 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks probably. The hard part's going to be getting the final section of pipe is 72 inch, and trying to get 72 inch in plastic is a special order. So that'll be the longest lead time.
And is that part of the first phase that we're discussing now, approving tonight?
Yeah, the very last section, it's about 300 feet of 72 inch pipe, but the contractor can start on the 48 inch. That's a common, the 48 and 54 are common size. The 72 is just, it's a special order. We could go concrete, but that raises the price up. You know, that could put us up quite a bit. That's why the range somewhere right now, the engineer estimates are 350 to 450,000. If we were to go 72 inch with concrete, you're up at that upper end.
Dave, is this the same type of pipe that you're planning to put as a sleeve over at Knollwood?
No, that's actually, the Knollwood job actually started on Monday, but that's a fiberglass liner that actually slides inside of the existing corrugated metal. But this pipe is just, it's too far gone. We can't even think about doing that.
Got it.
Dave, is there any possibility of grant money on this?
We really have to get this done like now, Hugh. We really can't. You know, we're probably 6-8 months for grant money if there is any.
Yeah, Hugh, this is Casey. There really is no grant money available for stormwater like this, unless you're doing a, you know, like a basin retrofit or something like that. But this is a, you know, an infrastructure issue that that just has to be dealt with immediately.
So can I just ask, I'm sorry, you probably already answered this question. Basically, this is just going to be moved up in the list of priorities. It's not going to actually increase our spending over what we've budgeted this year for these projects. It's just moved up because it's an emergency.
Yeah, we had $1 million budgeted for this in 2020's budget in capital to get this done. We were just trying to do a more due diligent engineering of the project. So we knew all the nooks and crannies of the pipe, but it's just getting too far gone. And you know, the tropical storm we had dumped 6 inches of rain in 4 hours here, which is a 500-year storm. It just can't take any much more without, you know, just ripping up the rest of the pipe.
So I guess then some other projects that were planned for will get pushed off to next year if this one's going to be done, or?
No. This was a separately planned project that we were going to bid out. So there were no township employees used to do the work or anything. So we had intended to bid this out this year and get it done, but it's just getting too far gone at this point.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Final
last
question for me: does this qualify for an emergency declaration to be able to avoid certain requirements from the state?
Well, Hugh, that's what I'm asking, and the solicitor's on the line as well. The staff is deeming this an emergency, just like North Hill Spillway, because we were about to lose the road there. We're in risk of losing backyards here. Trees may fall, and it's dangerous, and we know about it. So, you know, myself and staff are requesting that the board approve this as an emergency. We are still going to seek out proposals. We're not just going to award it blindly to a contractor. Just like with North Hill, we solicited 3 or 4 proposals with the plans.
Right.
So we will do the same thing. We want to expedite it, not just give it away, obviously. So
And
it's still
Mr.
going to.
I can respond that there is a provision in the second class code that if there are emergency repairs or types of projects that normally would need to be publicly bid, if there is an emergency situation, that does allow the township not to go through the public procurement process. And I've been involved talking to Carroll Engineering as well as Dave Woodward and Casey about this project, so we're very familiar with it. And I do think it meets the qualifications for that exception.
So you're saying this
I'd
would,
like to make
so this would not qualify for the fulfilling wage requirement?
I'm sorry, there was.
Just said?
No, I'm saying that it does qualify that you do not have to go through the normal advertisement and public procurement process. You can do what you did in the North Hill situation where you solicit, you know, 3 or 4 different bids from contractors that do this kind of work. You don't have to make it open and award it to just the lowest responsible bidder after advertisement.
Right. Does it still required to be prevailing wage because it's over $25,000?
Yes, I believe prevailing wage would still be required. Yes, that's a different statute.
Yep.
All right, I'm okay with it then.
Okay. And again,
I'd make the motion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Hugh.
I'd make the motion that we then proceed with the emergency declaration and the project.
I will second that motion.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
John Hellman already seconded it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yep. Okay, Robin, I need to unmute some mics, so just give me a few seconds
Sure.
for public comment. And again, Mr. Hellman, to your question, if we were to continue with the design as is and move along the normal process with the bidding requirements and advertising, we'd be looking at 60 days minimum before we could even start construction because the board would have to approve the contract. So that's just another extension of time. So, okay, Ms. Stuntebeck, I have the callers. Hold on, one more. I have the callers unmuted.
Okay, you want to start with the phones if anybody has a question? Nobody on phones? Margie, you have a question?
Hi, yes, good evening. It's Margie Swart. And I'm really troubled by this because this was in the budget apparently since last September or October, $1 million line item. So we've known for almost a year that this needed to be done. And it's hard for me to believe that a $1 million project is not going to go through the normal bidding requirements. I could
It's not
probably
$1 million.
almost say with 95% certainty who the contractor is that will get this job. And that concerns me that it's always the same contractor. I would just like some clarification. Does this mean that township employees will not be on this job?
Ms. Swart, we wouldn't even attempt to do this job. It is much too large, and we'd be tying up virtually the entire streets department and probably parks department for 6 to 8 weeks only doing this job. We can't afford to do that.
Okay, so to confirm, our streets and parks department, sewer, roads, and employees will not be working on this job.
Correct, except for some oversight inspections. Mr. Woodward, Mr. Bertolami will be out on the site talking to neighbors, and that's it though.
Okay, and could you just clarify the $350,000 that Carroll Engineer has been quoted? Did you say that was engineering fees?
No, that's construction.
Okay, so you don't anticipate the full $1 million will be spent on the project?
That is their estimate for the portion that we are proposing to have done. It's not the entire project.
All right, any reason why we just wouldn't go ahead and complete the entire project if it's already in the budget?
We're just trying to get the most important parts done right now as an emergency.
There's,
Can I interject? I would say, I think Dave explained it earlier, that this project has, in Carroll trying to decipher exactly what's going on with the pipes, it's been a little bit more challenging and more of a headache than we originally thought. So actually mapping out exactly the entire project is not feasible at this time, and taking on the emergency as well.
Right.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Hugh, did you have another comment to make?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Is there anybody else on the phone who has a question or comment?
Madam Chair, I don't see anyone.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, so we're going to go ahead with a roll call. I'll start. Robin says aye. John?
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
Hugh?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The ayes have it.
Thank you very much. And I just want to share some other pictures of a not related stormwater issue, but it's just indicative of what the Public Works Department's facing out there. I'm going to show some pictures from Pine Valley Circle, but it's again indicative of the corrugated metal pipe. Rick, Derek, Dave, and I dislike corrugated metal pipe like you wouldn't believe, because once it fails, and then we have to, fix it. Public Works does intend to repair this section themselves. They've already been out there on a repair, but this will be a replacement. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, so this is down on Pine Valley Circle. You can see where the lawn has been excavated, and you can see what remains of the corrugated metal stormwater pipe here. We are, and again, Dave and Rick jump in, we are intending to have Public Works forces do this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We made the temporary repair on that, Casey. That's going to be another project about the same scope as Ravens.
Oh gosh, okay, yikes. I didn't realize it was that big, okay.
We're going to take care of, well, we're currently fixing from the storm 2 weeks ago, the one at Hamlet Hill. That's under construction right now, 100 feet being replaced. And then we have the 100+ feet up at Legion that has to be replaced once we clear out of Hamlet.
Okay, so just to clarify for the board, you are doing Hamlet Hill and Legion Drive?
Yes.
Okay, so.
This Pine Valley still needs engineered for a project for next.
Gotcha, so you're looking at this for 2021 at this point?
2021. We've made some temporary repairs out there.
Okay, very good. So again, this is just to indicate to the board just the extent of the corrugated metal pipe problems we have out there. And you can see this is a televised piece of the the Pine Valley Circle pipe. And then, not that one, sorry. And Dave, this would be the fix that you guys made, correct?
Can you say that again, Casey? You broke up.
Is this the section that you guys fixed before?
Yeah, that's the section we fixed before. You can see the concrete. We basically put a lay a metal piece over top and then put a concrete collar on it for a temporary patch.
Gotcha. Okay, again, that was just to indicate, hey Rick, could you mute yourself? Thanks. That was just to indicate, that we have some major stormwater issues in the township. Strictly no action by the board tonight is requested. Any questions from the board on Pine Valley Circle?
Well, my only question would be, is this pipe so far gone? Could there be an insert put into this thing? So it might be cheaper to do it that way rather than doing a complete excavation and replacement job like being suggested for Ravens. What do you think, Dave?
Once they get to this point, it's too far gone. We'd like to get into a program where we're cleaning and checking our pipes to where we can line them before they get to this point.
Yeah.
But
well, we're going to have to look at that because
that's some major stormwater costs.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to start looking at this very seriously. Come up with a game plan because dealing with these things to get to the point where they're an emergency, it just costs a lot more. Plus, it also raises a danger to the community.
Right. I agree.
Well, we need to come up with a game plan here, folks.
Okay, Ms. Duntebeck, thank you very much. I'm done with my comments tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you. We're going to move on to item number 8, Township Engineers Announcements with Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is basically going to follow up on what's already been said. Before we get off of the project that we were just discussing over on Pine Valley Circle, it might be good to keep in mind the size of the pipe involved there. That pipe is 4 feet high by 6 feet wide. It's called squash pipe, so it's an elliptical corrugated metal pipe. So that is well beyond the capabilities of our public works crew to excavate that and replace it. So that's why that's going to need to be done by contract, similar to Ravens Lane. As was already mentioned also, we currently have 2 other pipe replacement projects in progress as a result of the storms that we had a couple weeks ago. Public Works has started working on 100 linear feet of 36-inch pipe in Hamlet Hill from Trafalgar Lane to the detention basin in our park. That pipe was severely damaged, and Public Works is replacing it in kind. Well, not in kind for diameter, but they're replacing corrugated metal with plastic, HDPE. It's about 100 feet in length, and the cost of the materials alone is about $3,000, and the work will be done by the Public Works crew. Week before last, we found another sinkhole and another problem at 533 Legion Drive. That's 140 feet of pipe, about 36 inches in diameter. It's completely failed, and that needs to be replaced as well. So once Public Works gets done with Hamlet Hill, they'll be moving on to Legion Drive and replacing that pipe as well. Cost for those materials is unknown at this time. We haven't purchased those materials yet, but it's going to be in the same area of cost as Hamlet Hill. It's just about 40% longer, so we would anticipate about a 40% increase in the materials costs. That's it for stormwater, unless anybody has any questions. I guess the last comment I would make is we have about 30,000 linear feet of corrugated metal pipe under the roads in West Goshen Township. We have been for the past 3 years working with the Army Corps of Engineers to categorize, photograph, and prioritize the pipe runs, the corrugated metal pipe runs in the township, so that we can come up with a proactive replacement and/or lining program before the pipes get to the condition that some of these are in now. So, John, that work is underway and has been for a few years now. Unfortunately, it's a rather large project and time consuming, so we are progressing pretty well on it, but it's not done yet. So we are working on that analysis and prioritization project.
Hey, Rick,
Moving
this
away
is
from
Sean.
stormwater, update on the Greystone project. We're continuing with the construction of Dam 181, which is the stormwater dam. The stormwater dam was the spillway that was recently poured, concrete spillway, was undermined by the two recent storms that we had. So we had to design a repair project for that. That was designed by the developer and was recently approved by DEP. And work is going to start on that repair within the next week or two. Once that repair is done, then the spillway will be able to be backfilled and we'll be able to progress with the remaining work on the dam. But that has delayed that project by about a month. Other than that, the other work at the site is just housing construction, which is going to continue for a number of years down the road. Another issue that is unrelated to stormwater or Greystone, but I wanted to make the board aware of it. We're in the process of reviewing an 11-lot subdivision for 325 North 5 Points Road. I think you're familiar with that project. During the review, it's come to our attention that there are going to be several waivers required for the construction of this project. Two of the three of those were known ahead of time. One is the cul-de-sac size does not meet the standard code requirements. Normally you need to have at least 500-foot long roadway to provide a cul-de-sac. This roadway is approximately 450 feet long, but cul-de-sac is really the only feasible way to run the driveways off of a public street there without accessing 5 Points Road. In addition to the length, the normal right-of-way width or right-of-way diameter for a cul-de-sac is 60 feet. But since the right-of-way for this road is going to be 40 feet, the right-of-way for the cul-de-sac would be reduced to 50 feet. So that would be a single waiver from section 72-23A and B of the subdivision land development ordinance. As I already mentioned, the right-of-way width is proposed at 40 feet for the roadways in this development, which is consistent with the right-of-way width that exists throughout the R3C area. That entire area has right-of-way widths of 40 feet, which were standard at the time that area was developed. So there's also a waiver request for a right-of-way width of 40 feet and a cartway width of 28 feet. As you may be aware, for the past probably 10 years, we've granted waivers for cartway width from 32 feet to 28 feet in an effort to minimize impervious surfaces and decrease generation of stormwater from the roads. So that is a common waiver that has been granted a number of times in the past 10 years. So those waivers were anticipated as part of this project due to the nature of the site. During the design process and the review process, another waiver need has arisen, and that's regarding the grade, the horizontal grade of the street. Our code in 72-26D calls for a 50-foot leveling area of a maximum 2% slope from the intersection of the road into the development. A waiver is being requested to change that 2% to 3% for the first 50 feet into the development. And the need for that is if you go with a 2% slope, it's going to require 2 feet of additional cut throughout the length of the roadway, which will then extend into the site and cause kind of a bowl effect, which will result in a significant change to the topography of the site and the drainage of the site, which is detrimental. And it does not really affect the safety. Changing from a 2% slope to a 3% slope is not a significant change, and does not negatively impact the safety of the intersection. So that waiver is being suggested for your consideration as well. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to make the board aware of that prior to the final plan coming in and having to actually take action on those waivers, in case you have any comments or questions. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions, additional questions for Mr. Craig?
Well, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, John.
If I could just say this quickly, will this come before the planning commission, Rick, for September?
It will definitely come before the planning commission. I don't know if it will be September or not. The review letter for the project was pretty lengthy. I know the developer's working diligently to address the review comments, but some of those issues are going to take some design work and some traffic analysis, and it may or may not be ready for September, but it will definitely come before the planning commission prior to going to the board of supervisors.
And just one last question. When the board decided to make that area be an R3C area, did the right-of-way requirements, I thought that would make the right-of-way for this particular project be in conformance with the other area, which has that 40-foot right-of-way for the roadway. I don't quite understand why that would require a waiver.
When the area and bulk requirements for that district were set up, I don't believe the right-of-way was included in that. That's in a separate section of the subdivision land development ordinance, and the developer did not request a change to that section. But it is reasonable to allow the right-of-way for that area to be consistent with the rest of the R3C, particularly since we're using a 28-foot roadway width. So I don't really see a problem with that waiver. Just merely wanted to bring it to the board's attention that it will require one.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, all that the developer we focused on was really the zoning changes that were needed. There wasn't any request to make any amendments to the otherwise applicable subdivision land development regulations.
Ashley, did you have another question?
I honestly wanted to thank Mr. Craig for the great work you're doing. He actually came out to my neighborhood this week because I have some neighbors who have been really impacted by these storms. And it's an unprecedented situation. And I really feel for a lot of the people that are being negatively impacted by all the stormwater runoff. So I know that it's a hard situation, and I'm glad to support you guys in whatever you need to do to fix it. I hope that you feel comfortable enough to come to us to let us know in the future what it is you do need from us should it arise. Because like I said, this is a pretty unprecedented situation. So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, we're going to go ahead now and move on to item number 9, zoning officers announcements with Mr. Bill Webb.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Good evening.
Is Margie speaking now? I'm sorry, I think I heard her voice. Oh, I see it now, it's on.
I'd like to real quickly, please.
Yes.
Just a question on the 11 lot subdivision. I remember asking the developers at the time if it was going to be a private street, and they said it would have to be because it didn't meet the road standards. So I'm a little concerned as to why, when they brought it before the board a year or so ago, that it was stated that it doesn't meet the requirements of the township. My concern with the cul-de-sac specifically is, what about the radius for fire engines getting in there? And then also you'd have a street basically on the standard of a private road, and then we have the fire hydrant issues again. I guess I'm asking, going forward, then could somebody on a private road, like our our subdivision come to the township and say, well, you've granted these waivers, we'd like a waiver and we'd like, to turn our road over to the township and what would happen in that case. So it seems inconsistent on many fronts. So just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
This road was never intended to be a private road. It is not going to be a private road. It's going to be dedicated to the township. The width is going to be the same as the width of many roadways that have been constructed in the last 10 years in the township. The diameter of the cul-de-sac is slightly smaller, but turning movement analyses have been done and there's no negative impact on fire equipment. That has been reviewed by the township fire marshal. And other than that, the roadway geometry and cross-section will fully meet township standards that are current. It's just the right-of-way width and the width of the roadway that are being changed.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. And Margie, thank you for your comments. Okay, so let's turn now to the zoning officer's announcements with Mr. Bill Webb. Bill, can you hear us?
Hey, Bill, I'd suggest you turn your video off because you're breaking up. Uh-oh, he froze. Oh.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hey, Bill, can you turn your video off?
Hearing board, we did hold two hearings on July 23rd.
There we go.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're clear with the video off. Go ahead. So could you start over? Sorry.
There we go. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Yes. So the zoning hearing board did hold two hearings on July 23rd. We heard the zoning hearing board K02 of 2020, which was for the Stanberry project at 829 Paoli Pike. That hearing was closed, and after the zoning hearing board had heard the testimony, they made some requests on behalf of the residents that were present, and the applicant has asked to reopen their hearing, which will be on the 27th of this month. They've modified their plan a little bit, so they're going to take it back to the zoning hearing board. They're not moving anything to the rear. They're adjusting some of the setbacks to please the residents on Fir. So that will be on the 27th at 7 p.m. by Zoom. The zoning hearing board also heard the matter for 1209 Farmington, which was a request for front yard setback relief. The zoning hearing board did grant that relief for those folks so that they could do a porch on the front of their home. We've had 3 new applications come in. This would be zoning hearing board application 4 of 2020 for 1091 Clipper Mill Drive, right off of 5 Points Road. That applicant is also seeking setback relief from the front yard setback. Those houses are smaller lots and the houses are kind of close to the roadway. So those folks are seeking a 6-foot variance to be able to do a porch on the front of their home. And I would need to know whether the board would like to take a position on this application. It would be my recommendation that we do not take a position. This is very similar in nature to the Farmington application that we do not take a position. So I would like to know if the board would like to take a position on this application.
I do not need to take a position.
Yeah, I agree. Just be neutral.
Okay.
No, I don't have it.
Very good. The next application is application 5 of 2020, which is for the Christ Community Church at 1190 Phoenixville Pike. They are zoned R3. We do not allow signs within the residential zoning district. The church is seeking to place an institutional sign of 105 square feet at their entranceway. Again, this will have no impact on any residential properties because they are, to the front of them is commercial properties. They have McLaren, the kitchen supplier is directly across the street from them. And the next residential property is up the street further. So it would be my recommendation again to take no action on this application. We do have some churches in the township that do have signs that didn't go through the process, which I don't know how that happened. That was before my time, but these folks are trying to do the right thing and get legal approval. So it would be my recommendation that we do not take action, but I would need to know whether the board wishes to take action on this application.
Yeah, be neutral, no action.
Yeah, as long
Same
as
here,
there's no
Bill.
residential impact, like you said, then I don't think we need to take an action either.
I agree.
Good. Yeah, the residential properties are mainly behind the church, up by Mercer. So there's no residential impact. The next application that came in was application 06 of 2020 for 331 Holly. And that was a mirror application of the 1209 Farmington application, where they're seeking a front yard relief for a porch. Once again, these are very small lots. The houses are built pretty close to the roadway, so they need this relief. And again, we didn't take a position on 1209 Farmington, so my recommendation that we do not take a position on this application either. What would be the board's pleasure?
Take no action.
Okay.
Yeah, neutral, no action.
No position.
Agree.
Okay, thank you. These hearings will be held by Zoom. The links have been were attached to all the letters that went out within the 500 feet radius of the properties. And Casey has also put it on the township's website for anyone who wishes to be a part of those hearings. The next thing I would have is that I did send out intent to lien notices to individuals who we've been maintaining their properties. As you see on the bills to be paid, we have a lawn company that comes in and cuts our abandoned properties or properties that people just don't take care of. And I have actually recovered so far close to $1,000 in money that we've spent. The other properties, I can tell you, we're not going to recover until those properties are sold, because I know for a fact that the owners are deceased. So I'll be contacting Kristen's office again. We had been in conversation last week about the intent to lien, and now I'm going to tell them by Friday who has not paid, and then we will proceed with liening those properties. Otherwise, I have nothing further this evening.
Hey, Bill, if I can ask, how many properties are you talking about? How many vacated properties are requiring lawn services from the township?
Sure, we've been billed recently for 6 properties.
Okay.
And I will say that the landscaper that is doing this for us, he's pretty diligent about it. If he shows up and the property doesn't need cut, he doesn't cut it, so he's not gouging anyone. He's been doing this for us for a few years now, and he does a great job.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bill.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Okay, we're now going to move on to item number 10, discussion of ordinance number 3-2020 Sustainability Committee. Ms. Camp will start the conversation.
Sure. I was asked to put together an ordinance to establish a sustainability advisory committee. This is basically like an ad hoc committee that would be formed of residents, and the ordinance does allow for the board to appoint non-residents if it desires. This ordinance would be creating a new chapter of your code book. I did not assign it a chapter number because it didn't really fit in your general code. It goes alphabetically. It didn't fit in well. So if this ordinance is adopted, it will be sent to general codes and they'll determine where's the best place to put it chronologically within your code. We did advertise tonight's hearing in the Daily Local News on August 11th, and we sent a copy of the ordinance if anybody wanted to inspect it at the law library in the Daily Local, which is required since we did not publish the entire ordinance. All this does is create a committee. It authorizes the board to, at a future point, pick members to be on this committee. The committee would be advisory only in nature, and it would serve as an agent for the board, basically, to focus on issues relating to sustainability initiatives. This ordinance does not approve any specific project. It does not authorize any funding for any project. All it does is create a committee to address issues that the township board, either already through the Cadmus report or future proposals and projects that the board of supervisors must approve. This committee would be maybe the spearhead, the effort to investigate and do some of the background due diligence for those types of projects, and then bring it to the board to actually vote on and implement. So I think there's been some confusion that this ordinance is actually obligating the township to do specific projects relating to sustainability. It's not doing that at all. It's just creating a committee who would be doing some of the legwork or some of the investigation, maybe getting additional proposals to then present to the board of supervisors. Everything is still in the power of the board of supervisors with respect to whatever initiatives they choose to go forward with. The ordinance is pretty straightforward in terms of, again, it's the board that appoints the members. It identifies basically what the role would be of this committee. As far as the meetings, we didn't get into a level of detail of specifying exactly how frequently they must meet and what day of the week they must meet. I think that's better served by the members of the committee who are ultimately picked to make those decisions. With respect to obligations or whether this committee can expend funds, again, it's only if the board of supervisors chooses to budget funds for this committee, or if the committee, once it gets up and running, just decides it needs funding for some project it's working on, they would then have to come back to the board and seek those funds. I did not intend, it was not my intention, but obviously it's a board decision as to whether or not members of this committee would be compensated. That was not my intention, and I didn't put any compensation for these members in this ordinance. But again, that's a policy decision for the board to make. Trying to think if there's anything else. Again, I know that there was the Cadmus report that was done. The township was a part of the COG, the Westchester Area Council of Governments, who had Cadmus do that report that has a lot of long-range plans, none of which have been voted on by the board, other than just general support for continuing to investigate and see what sustainability projects should be implemented by the board. This ordinance, as I said, does not obligate the township to do any of that, and it's really just an advisory board to start the conversation.
So are there any comments from any of the supervisors regarding this ordinance?
Yes, Robin, this is Sean. I'd like to make a few comments. So the genesis of the idea of this committee was back in January and February, when, as a newly formed board, we discussed what our priorities might be for 2020 and beyond. And we all supported during that discussion the intention to go ahead and form a committee along the lines as Kristen just described. We have had many township residents approach board members and others and ask, and show their frustration around why there seem to be a lack of any initiative at the township and in its governance around sustainability as a long-term initiative and project. We have 4 of our 5 surrounding municipalities all have had environmental advisory committees or sustainability committees in place for a while now. And we as a board at the time January, February, said this was a good idea, and we were intended to go ahead and establish it this year. And we got delayed a little bit with the COVID situation. Clearly, here we are in August with something that we talked about back in January as being something we wanted to move forward with. So we're later rather than early, in my personal opinion, around getting going with this. During that same time period, we've had the Cadmus report issued. That is, as Kristen said, is a long-range aspiration in terms of how we can show leadership at West Goshen in terms of some of the things we can do to, in particular, support a more renewable energy future. So really just a section of sustainability. And we only have approved a resolution that says we will continue as a township to support the collective efforts of the Council of Governments around a joint approach to seeing if we can procure a renewable electricity at a price, hopefully, that will be lower than we're paying today. So that would be good news if that project does come to fruition. And the other thing we supported was to engage with a collective approach in the Westchester area to having community education and information made available. And of course, that would be one of the remits that I would see that the folks on this committee could certainly help support and bring their own ideas to. So really, there's no commitment as far as I can see in the short term. And as Kristen said, it would certainly have to be a specific project that the committee, once it's established, would come to the board and ask for support for from any dollar perspective. We would look to have people, I believe, from our township sit on this committee, and we would welcome their ideas and enthusiasm and passion for projects that we may not have thought of or anyone else may have thought of at this point that would be an enhancement to our community. So I'm all on board with trying to move this forward. If there is any particular language concerns on any of the items that need clearing up, I would like to try to do that tonight. That's my comment. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from board members? Because then I'll open it up to residents.
Yeah, I just want to chime in also.
Excuse me.
Sorry, thank you.
Go ahead, John.
I just want to say, I just want to repeat and reemphasize here, this is in section 3A. This is the scope of work for this particular advisory, and again, I'm going to emphasize advisory committee, and that is to provide advice, guidance, and recommendations to the board of supervisors. So this is an advisory committee. It's not one that's going to make the decision on spending any money. In fact, it's very clear here. It further says that the committee shall not have the ability to spend any money unless it's been priorly approved by the board of supervisors. So again, this committee strictly is an advisory role, and it's going to be provides for something which has been around now and been talking about for quite a while. This Cadmus report about talking about ways in which we can feasibly move towards renewable energy and doing it in a way which would be economically to the benefit of the township. And I think that's a good goal for us to pursue. In order for us to be able to pursue that goal, this is the next step, and it's to develop a committee that can have public hearings, be fully transparent, and be able to have a complete discussion about what it means to move forward and try to become more reliable upon renewable energy. So I think that's a worthwhile objective. And in order for us to pursue that objective, we need to move forward with this sustainability advisory committee. So that's my feeling about it.
Madam
Okay,
Chair, we
so-
do have some questions.
Yes, I see Mr. Murphy has already raised his hand.
I was going to interject there, if I may.
Oh, okay, Hugh. Ted will give you back time in a few minutes.
First of all, I was blindsided by the ordinance appearing without knowing that, in fact, it was being worked on. I do not agree with it being in the form of an ordinance at all. It should, at the very most, be a resolution. The concept is good, but it does not need codified at this point. I'm disappointed that the money was spent on having the solicitor draw up the ordinance even to that point, as tight as we are this year. And I'll stop right there.
Thanks for your comment, Hugh. Go ahead, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I had the opportunity to read carefully through the ordinance. I did find it on the township website, as well as the 2019 comprehensive plan and the Cadmus energy study. So I had an opportunity to review all of those. I believe that this is a worthwhile project. It's worth working towards. And I think that the proposed ordinance and the process that we go through need changes, though. I do think that we need to slow down a little bit and not take a vote on this tonight. To mimic the words of Supervisor Sean Walsh, I think it is important here to have a few public meetings on this, with this as the sole issue, to get good resident perspectives. Tonight is the first time that this is being introduced to the residents of the township. And I think given the goals set forth in the comprehensive plan and the Cadmus energy study, with a goal of achieving 100% renewable electricity within 15 years and 100% renewable energy for heat and transportation within the next 30 years, that there certainly is time to consider this to get good resident perspectives without pushing it through to a vote this evening, even though it is the purpose of the committee is to provide advice and recommendations to the board. With that in mind, I do have some very specific suggestions for the ordinance. In section 1, 2B, this allows for non-resident members. I don't think that's proper. All of the other boards and committees within the township are supposed to have township residents or business owners as members. If the ordinance is going to allow non-township residents to be on the committee, I believe that those non-residents must have the technical and educational qualifications to render them experts in the field of sustainable and renewable energy. And I believe that the ordinance or resolution, whatever we decide to go forward with, should set that forth clearly. We do have approximately 24,000 residents in the township, and many of them are incredibly bright and have significant credentials that could serve on such a committee here. Section 1(3) is labeled qualifications, powers, and duties. Yet there are no qualifications written into that section. I suggest that given the highly technical and legal complex and costly nature of the combined Cadmus energy study and the township comprehensive plan endeavor, the members of this proposed committee must include individuals with backgrounds in electrical or power generation engineering, financial analysis, legal analysis, potentially litigation and negotiation skills, and municipal planning. After all, if they're—
Sorry, you've actually surpassed your 2-minute allowance. Do you want to allow Mr. Murphy more time?
Yes, he's permitted more time.
Thank you. I'll be very brief.
Conversation.
For a minute. Thank you. I believe that if this committee is supposed to be providing advice and recommendations, that they have the educational and technical backgrounds to provide such advice. I suggest that section 1(3)B should contain a provision, perhaps number 5, prohibiting any Board of Supervisors members from being appointed to or serving on the Sustainability Committee, as the role of the committee is to provide advice and recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. I believe that it's self-serving to provide advice and recommendations to yourself. I believe that section 1(4)B should set forth an expected frequency of meetings. After all, many of our committee members and board members are compensated for their time. I believe the dollar amount is approximately $40 a meeting. If you look at that, could cost, if we're having 12 meetings a year at 7 members, that could cost the township over $3,000. So I think we should have some idea of how many meetings we're going to have, and perhaps whether they're going to be compensated or not for attendance at the meetings, as many of our other commissions and board members are. The section 1(5), I believe, conflicts with section 1(3)B2. Section 1(3)B2 requires that all township funds to be spent by the committee be approved in the budget by the Board of Supervisors. Yet Section 5 simply provides that the committee cannot obligate township funds or expend township funds without expressed written consent from the Board of Supervisors. Simply allowing, obligating, or spending to the express written consent of the Board of Supervisors is far less an obstacle than including it in a budget that must be adopted and passed by a majority vote in the preceding year. So is this written consent to be from just one board member? And is that with or without a vote in public? That's not included in the provisions of the ordinance. I think it should be if you're going to have two provisions. I think Section 5 should be stricken entirely from the proposed ordinance, as spending is already covered under the previous section. So as I mentioned before, I believe that it is important to get good resident perspectives on this because it is long-ranging. It is potentially very expensive. If we're going to be going solar, using wind power and geothermal. I just recently installed the geothermal system in a property that I own off of Taylor's Mill Road. Just the installation cost over $40,000. And that's for a small home with 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen. So the cost can be significant. How much will it cost to do that with the municipal buildings that we have throughout the township, going solar or adding geothermal or wind? So there's going to be significant cost in converting the township municipal buildings and vehicle fleet to electric and using other renewable sources. Given the fact that it's a 15 or 30-year plan and it's going to cost significant amounts of money to the township residents and businesses, to the taxpayers, I believe that we should go slow in this and get good resident perspectives before we adopt the resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Robin,
Madam
I would
Chair,
like
we
to
have a few more
respond to Ted's
questions.
comments before we go to other questions, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Sean. You need to unmute.
Ted, I just want to clear up, I think, a misunderstanding you have relative to what this committee is about. The Canvas report, first of all, is separate from the Sustainability Committee. That was why I mentioned that we already discussed this prior to even the Canvas report being done. It was an idea about having the opportunity for residents to be able to bring ideas to the township, not connected to a CADMAS study that it's still to report out. The CADMAS study does not say we have to put solar panels, windmills, or anything else at the township. And in fact, the focus of the Westchester Area Council of Governments is not to do individual projects at townships, but to procure renewable energy from a new solar array at utility scale pricing in Southeast Pennsylvania, just as places like the University of Pennsylvania, the City of Philadelphia, Penn State University, to name some of the larger institutions have commissioned. That if we can access the scale and pricing of renewable electricity from a solar field like that, it will be cheaper than the township is currently paying, and we won't have had to spend any money at all on projects at the township. So I just want to clear up that misunderstanding. Relative to Hugh's comment on ordinance versus resolution, we did discuss this at public meetings. Ms. Camp was there and told the board that it was our choice around which direction to go. And we had a conversation and directed her to produce an ordinance. So Hugh, you have heard this before. It should not be new to you. And then to your specific comments, Ted, I would like Ms. Camp to weigh in on those. I do think we should have it as residents of the township being the people who should be appointed to the committee. The qualifications, I don't agree that they need all these qualifications. We don't expect our planning committee people to be all experts in municipal planning. This is about providing residents the opportunity to bring sustainable ideas to the township, to staff, and to the board. We're not asking them to execute technical information in any shape or form, so we don't need to have specific qualifications for representatives on the committee. And relative to the Board of Supervisors being on the committee, I do agree we should not have a Board of Supervisor on this committee. We should just have a liaison like we do with all the other committees in the township. So thank you for being able to respond, Chair. I will now pass it back to you.
Also, if I could also ask for a clarification from Mr. Murphy. You mentioned something about a stipend. I missed that. I mean, which commissions and committees for the township presently receive stipends for their meetings? Mr. Murphy?
There are a number that can be compensated for that. I believe Mr. Lalonde can answer your question more directly. He's the township manager.
I believe our planning commission and the authority currently receive a stipend. Park and Rec board does not.
Does the planning commission currently receive a stipend for any attendance at meetings?
Yes, they do.
The planning commission
Actually,
does?
we don't. We don't. This is Doug.
That's right. I've been on the planning commission for over 2 years.
Well, John, you still haven't filled. I'm sorry. Well, let's have this discussion offline, John, about you specifically.
I'm just saying, this receiving a stipend for serving on the planning commission or historical commission is all news to me. Okay. Can I make a suggestion? And first of all, I'd like to make a motion to support this, adopt this motion, but with 2 changes. Number one, that the section on the majority of the members of the committee shall be residents of the township with no more than 2 non-resident members. That be stricken from the ordinance, and then also include item 3B, number 5, that no supervisor would be appointed to the board.
John, just so I'm clear, you want it to be that every member of the committee must be a resident of the township. That's how you want 2B to be worded. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you want there to be a provision that a board of supervisor member may not be on this committee?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I support that, John. Thank you.
So,
John, you made a motion to support this, right? I'm sorry, Robin. Go ahead.
I made a motion, yes.
I haven't had a chance. May I please chime in?
well, actually, I wanted to open it up to other residents before we go further. I mean, I heard John's point of view. Ashley, you want to speak on something now before we have the residents? Okay. So Lisa, can you look to see if there are residents who are interested in
Robin,
having
do you
comments?
want to get a second on the motion first so we know what that motion is?
Sure.
Right, so I will second the motion to adopt the ordinance with the provisions that John mentioned.
Okay, Tina?
Yes, yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I guess I was a little confused on section 1A and C. In A, it indicates that there should be a maximum of 7 members. Of course, we talked about the non-residents, so aside from that. And then C, if you add up the 3 members for 2 years, and then another 2 members in 4, that comes to 9.
It depends on, because it depends on whether they choose to appoint 5 or 7. It gives them flexibility as to whether they're choosing 5 or 7. So C had to be worded the way it is because we don't know if they're going to choose 5 or 7.
Okay, with a max of 7.
Yeah. We don't know how many people are going to want to be on this committee, and that may change. It may fluctuate month to month, year to year. So there had to be some flexibility built into it.
Okay, seems a little confusing to me, but
That's the way it's worded in many other advisory boards are the same way.
okay, thank you.
Anybody on the phones have a question?
Hey, Lisa, this is Doug.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Lisa. I'm in favor of this. The concerns I had were addressed, and I'm in agreement. Thank you.
Anybody else on the phones?
Yeah, I think Margie wanted to speak as well.
Yeah, I'll get her as soon as the phones are done. Okay, Margie.
Oh God, finally come to the doghouse. Anyway, I agree with, I don't have the ordinance in front of me. I'm recalling from when I looked over it a week or 2 ago. But I do agree with just residents as that's the way it's stated with our other committees. And we did a couple of years ago ask a long-term sewer authority board member to excuse himself because he did not live in the township. So I'm glad that motion has already been made and that's included. Like I said, I don't have it in front of me, but I recall something about appointing them and choosing like the chairman and vice chairman at the organizational meeting. And I'm not sure that that's a good idea because don't they usually, committees usually choose their chairman, vice chairman, secretary at their first meeting of the year?
And that's the way it's worded, Ms. Ford. It's the committee that's going to be choosing their chair at the committee's first meeting.
Oh, it is at their first meeting, not at the organizational meeting of the township.
That's correct.
Okay. And then I do wish, repeat after 5 years, that this was more of just a overall policy committee, since obviously I'm never going to see a budget or a oversight committee in that way. So it would be nice. There are so many policies that I think we could adopt in this township that it would be nice to incorporate a sustainability committee or that concern or that topic with an overall umbrella of a township policy committee that could bring suggested policies to the township. Because I've seen a change in the board now for over the last 3 years. And I think the intent when you good-hearted people ran for public office was to change things. And that entails changing policies. And I really haven't seen more than 1 or 2 policies in the last 3 years. So thank you for finally getting to me and allowing me to speak.
So Casey and Kristen, it appears to me that we have advertised for us to vote on this today.
Yep.
And we don't have any wiggle room.
No,
to
you
consider
can.
Some
You
of the
don't have to
comments that
vote on
other
it tonight.
residents have brought forward.
You do not have to vote on it tonight, Robin. If you want me to take this ordinance back and revise it based on the way that, two options. One, because this is not a zoning ordinance or subdivision ordinance, we're not constrained by the municipality's planning code in taking any edits we make back to the County Planning Commission. The County Planning Commission has to review the ordinance that you ultimately adopt based on the MPC. Because this is not one of those ordinances, the way the second class township code reads is that if they're not basically not major substantive changes to the ordinance, you can make those in your motion and still adopt it tonight. If we were going to completely overhaul the ordinance and sort of, do away with a lot of the substantive provisions, I would tell you that we would have to go back and re-advertise for another hearing before you could adopt it. The 2 proposed edits that are being made tonight, I do not view those as major substantive changes, and I would be comfortable with the board moving forward tonight. Or if you don't want to move forward tonight, we can table it and continue the hearing on this to your next public meeting. So those are your options.
So Mr. Murphy had a chance to speak, and I was made aware through email coming from other residents that they wanted to slow this down as well. I don't know if there are any other residents who would be interested in sharing their points of view this evening.
I'd very much appreciate if we could defer this to the next meeting at least, to give it some time to work.
And I'm absolutely in favor of adopting it with those provisions tonight. We've been talking about this for many, 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 many months. Many months.
Madam Chair, there is one resident. Sorry, Ashley.
And now that we have moved forward with the CADMIS report, I believe it's essential to have a sustainability advisory committee in place to carry out the commitments that we've already made as a township and doing our neighbors a service by having this in place. I think it's essential.
So Kristen, having heard what Mr. Murphy has identified, could you go ahead and, I don't know whether you've already drafted or put something in, notes to yourself. I do think it's appropriate at least to hear out, those issues. I know from different perspectives that, maybe I don't see there being an issue that we take another week or two to just move it forward and having some of this insight. I hate when residents give us information that they think is relevant to their points of view, and we don't take advantage of actually giving it some time to think and mull, and oftentimes things come out better than we started. To me, the ordinance is in good shape. I appreciate the work that's already been done. But I was listening to all the comments that Mr. Murphy had, and just think it's worthwhile.
We do have,
We should have a vote.
You have a
That's-
motion.
We have a motion and we have a second.
I didn't get a chance to speak.
Go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. I wanted to speak, I would like to speak in favor of adopting this ordinance as soon as possible. There's no time like the present to think about the future. This township is behind the times. We should have been thinking about sustainability a long time ago, and then we wouldn't have to be dealing with the problems like the 6 miles of corrugated stormwater pipe that are failing now. It's time to think about new ideas, and this sustainability committee is a vehicle to find out about, explore new ideas, talk to other municipalities, use the power of residents to identify solutions, to think about new ideas, ways to improve this township, and think about the next 7 generations. And just delaying and delaying and delaying to think about details is more of the same. I would strongly urge adopting this ordinance, establishing the committee, dealing with the issues that were legitimately brought up. Can certainly be done, as Ms. Camp described, by making amendments to the motion tonight. I'm speaking as somebody who has served on a citizen environmental advisory council almost 25 years ago in another township. And that township was well served by the citizens and the residents who volunteered their time and expertise to provide new solutions. And I would certainly look forward to West Goshen adopting the same approach. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Can we call the question?
Yeah, can we actually also hear what the motion is again?
Yes, the motion is that we adopt the ordinance as presented with the 2 amendments. Number 1, that section 1, 2B be stricken, which states that a majority of the members of the committee shall be residents of the township with no more than 2 non-resident members, thereby indicating that all members must be residents of the township. And then secondly, that in section 3B, there be added 5, which would state that no supervisor shall serve on the board. Shall be appointed to the board.
Yeah, I think in that, in item A, Board of Supervisors shall appoint the members of the committee. So that just also needs a little cleaning up. Members of the committee, I suppose.
The word of needs to be added there.
Yep.
You had also asked me potentially to comment on some of Mr. Murphy's comments, and thank you, Ted, for sending them in a detailed email. That was helpful to get them in advance. With respect to the first comment, there was already a discussion that some of you support not having non-residents, so that's addressed. The second, section 3, we can get rid of in the heading of the section. I agree, it doesn't really speak to qualifications, so I would just change and get rid of that word qualifications in the heading. So section 3 would really just be labeled powers and duties. Whether or not the board wants to identify specific criteria and qualifications for the board member is 100% a policy decision for the board. I tend to agree with what Sean said, that you don't want to restrict yourself so much in identifying somebody's, specific criteria to serve on an advisory committee. There may be somebody that, as a hobby has an interest in sustainability and has a lot of time on their hands and has, good advice to provide to the committee. And just because they don't have a doctorate degree in a certain, qualification doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to serve on the committee. But that's a policy decision for the board. I would tell you that, you in picking the members, you are appointing the board. So you could accomplish what Mr. Murphy wants you to accomplish by just selecting people to serve on the board that have those qualifications. You don't necessarily need to put it into the ordinance. With respect to the third comment, you've already addressed that, not letting a board member serve, that's fine. Frequency of the meetings, again, my thought process was that it's really up to the committee to decide how frequently they need to meet and when they need to meet. I did not intend for there to be a stipend, but that again is that's a policy decision for the board. With respect to the conflict in section 5 and then section 3B2, I don't think there's a conflict, but I have absolutely no problem completely 100% striking section 5. I think I can clean up B2 to just read, the committee shall not have the authority to spend township funds unless approved by the board of supervisors, and leave it at that. And as far as is it one member or a majority, I think anything, the way I read the law is that it has to be a majority of the board of supervisors that approves an expenditure. So that goes without saying in my mind.
Mm-hmm. So Kristen, one little comment, because I'm not sure I understand how this should look, but from a qualifications in number 3 and then powers, what are we defining the powers as A, B, and B? I'm a little bit confused by what the powers would be if they don't have any responsibility to, unless the money's been budgeted by the board, what their powers would be. I can understand their duties and their roles and responsibilities, but should we be, is powers the right word?
Yeah, I mean, you could just have it be, we could retitle section 3 to be responsibilities of the committee. That's fine. Or duties of the committee, that would work too.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you.
I'm going to amend my motion to reflect those changes.
Okay, so why don't I go over them so everybody's clear? The first would be, as we said, and I'm just referring to the section numbers. Section 2B I wouldn't totally eliminate it. I would basically say that all members of the committee must be residents of the township. I'd state it in the affirmative.
Okay.
Section 3, we would just retitle it to be duties of the committee. Paragraph 3B2, I would simply state the committee shall not have the authority to spend township funds unless specifically approved by the board of supervisors, period. And then on the next page, B, we would add a subparagraph 5 to state that no supervisor shall be appointed to serve on the committee. And I would recommend that we delete the entire section 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't address this, but Mr. Murphy had a second email that dealt with the repealer section. That's a standard section that I put in most ordinances. And I do think about it before I put it in. I don't just cut and paste it. In this instance, I do not believe there are any other code sections in the West Goshen Code. I'm not aware of any other ordinances that deal anything with respect to an environmental sustainability committee or an environmental committee. And therefore, by putting that in, I actually could go either way. I could eliminate it, but it wasn't something that I just did without thinking. I really didn't believe there would be any ordinances that we wouldn't want to, that we would be impacting by the adoption of this ordinance. But I'm perfectly happy completely eliminating section 3 of this because I'm fairly confident that your board will have adopted relating to this type of topic.
Okay, so if John made the motion to adopt with those changes, then I will second.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Okay, hearing none, then we'll go through a roll call. We'll start with Ashley.
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Hugh.
No.
Robin. Aye. So thank you, Mr. Murphy, and thank you, Kristen, for working through the assimilation of the revised information. Sure. Okay, we're going to now move on to item number 11, the small wireless facilities right-of-way agreement, also with Ms. Camp.
Thank you. My colleague Kim Benzie is the author of this document, and this is sort of the ending of the different ordinances and policies that we've presented to you with respect to regulating small wireless facilities within your public rights of way. We have put together ordinance amendments to regulate small wireless facilities. These companies are wanting to use your public rights of way to install the smaller cellular facilities. And we think it's a good practice to have a model agreement. This agreement is not agreeing or approving any specific installation of any facilities in your right of way. It's really just serving as a template as you have companies come forward to the township requesting permits to be able to install their facilities in your right of way. Oftentimes they ask us if there's an agreement that, you know, the township utilizes as a starting point to start the negotiation and the discussion. What Ms. Benzie did is she's actually sat with some of your staff members and representatives of AT&T and Verizon, and we actually asked them for what agreements they would put forth. And we took what we believe to be the best provisions of both of those agreements and then put them into this, again, model agreement. A lot of this is driven by the federal and state laws on what the township is permitted to do and is not permitted to do when you have small wireless facilities, as that term is defined in the federal telecommunications law and the regulations. And we're trying to, you know, model and sort of keep it on everybody's forefront that there are those regulations that we have to comply with. And by putting it into a model agreement, we think that helps remind ourselves, as well as your code departments, that there are certain parameters that we have to work within when we're faced with permit applications to use your right of way for these facilities. So again, this is really a model that we're going to be using, that we're asking you to use. If AT&T, and I know there's going to be some pretty hot on the heels of this, will be specific applications for specific locations within township streets. If they want to tweak certain language, that's going to have to come back to the board to approve specific changes to this agreement. But it's really a starting point to have you go forward. We do make reference to this type of an agreement in the small wireless ordinance that was adopted.
Any comments by board members or questions?
No questions.
I'd like to make a motion, we adopt it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment.
Any public comment from our callers?
Yes, this is Doug Casey. This has come before the Planning Commission, and I'm in favor. Go ahead, please.
This agreement can be changed at any time. Is that my understanding? I mean, this is not an ordinance or not even a resolution. Right. It's just we're just agreeing this is what we're going to use as our template. And if we find there's a problem with it down the road, what would be involved in changing an agreement? Kristen.
Well, John, as I said, anytime a specific applicant would come before you and file an application to install these facilities in your right of way, we would be presenting to you a specific agreement that has that entity's name in it. And they would be the ones that would be asking for edits. So we would call those changes out to you, and it would have to come before you as a vote to actually authorize you to enter a specific agreement with a specific provider.
Okay. So this is going to be basically in a one-on-one situation here. For each licensee is going to be signing their own agreement with us as a township.
Right, but we wanted to level the playing field, and we don't want to give to AT&T something different than we're giving to AT&T or Verizon. We want to say, okay, well, here's really our form. If you feel absolutely necessary to make changes, you're going to have to justify why you think that change is necessary and explain it to the board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and do the roll call. Hugh, do you want to start?
Aye.
Okay, Ashley?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Robin, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And give our thanks to Ms. Benzi. Okay, item number 13, waste and recycling contract extension discussion, various staff. Who would like to take the lead?
Robin, you missed number 12.
Oh,
Yep.
what? Oh, of course. Highlight. I skipped right over it. Sorry, Sean. Item number 12, the 2020 mid-year budget review with Sean Walsh.
Casey, could you put up the one sheet page and share your screen with it? Do you have it available?
Yeah, could you give me just a second?
Yeah, so while you're pulling it up, I'll explain it in a minute, but I'll just give the background to this agenda item. So it was originally scheduled to be discussed at our July 21st Board of Supervisor meeting, but we postponed it until a later date, which ended up being tonight. Back on July the 7th, Township heads of department and finance discussed with Robin and myself as the budget liaison members for the board the current revenues that the township had received through mid-year, our revenue projections for the second half of the year, our mid-year, year-to-date expenses, and a forward view of expenses through the rest of the year, including some unanticipated and unbudgeted expenses that we knew of. The primary driver for doing the mid-year review was to understand and see if there are any concerns over the revenue position for the general fund due to the COVID-19 impacts, and whether we needed to make adjustments to expenses to keep our expenses in balance with our forecast revenues. So that's the background for why we wanted to do a kind of formal mid-year review with heads of departments. Casey, do you have it available?
Sean, I do not. I'd have to go. I'm on my laptop and I don't have access to that file. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, let me just explain that the sheet that was posted to the township webpage, if people want to look at it there, you can see it as part of the agenda items for the meeting. There were really three columns. The first column was an area called revenue shortfalls. So it was an identification of certain elements of revenue that we felt might be underperforming versus our original budget for the year. One was real estate transfer tax to the tune of $50,000 to $100,000. We were seeing less vehicle code and ordinance violation fines and fees to the tune of $50,000. Obviously, we didn't have a summer rec program, so we did not get any income from those activities. And the biggest one of all was really the fact that interest rates had collapsed in 2020, and our original budget assumption around the return on some of our fund balances was much lower. So overall, we had a revenue shortfall expectation of somewhere in the order of $400,000. To compensate for that, the discussion looked at the different areas of spend. We identified some things that were underspending because of COVID, things like travel for conferences and training, some clerical wages that were not needed for interns, gas consumption for vehicles was down. The light winter that we had reduced the expenditure on snow removal materials and overtime. And obviously the summer rec program, we didn't have to hire people because those were canceled. So all in all, we identified about a similar quantity of savings that we could ask the heads of department to realize out of their remaining budgets for the year and balance what we could forecast as a revenue shortfall against some actions that we were going to be able to take to reduce our expenses to a similar amount. There were a few identified unbudgeted expenses that we knew of. We'd overspent on some of our road construction design work. We had a police chief search that was not part of our original budget for 2020. We recently approved a little bit of professional services effort for our website redesign, and we had a police officer retire that had not been forecast in the budget cycle. So we do have a few expenses that were not included in the budget that we also identified as part of this exercise. The overall net effect is basically that we've kind of believe we've balanced the revenues versus our expenses through the remainder of the year, slightly under in terms of we're still projecting a potential deficit a little bit higher than the budget amount, in the tune of about $130,000 to $180,000. Again, within the accuracy of the information that we have and where we are at this point in time, this seems to be a prudent approach. And that's where we are in terms of working with the township staff on 2020. I do want to report that Jean Denham had spoken with Keystone Collections regarding earned income tax receipts in particular. And earned income tax did hold up well through the second quarter. But with the initial stimulus money to employers now over, we do need to keep a close eye on whether there's a potential here for any layoffs or furloughs by West Goshen employers as we go through the rest of this third quarter. So we do need to continue to keep an eye on our forecast revenues, and in particular the earned income tax. So Casey or anyone else, I don't know if you have anything else to add, or if there are any questions any of the board members have, or if there's any questions from the public, but that's what we did in terms of a mid-year budget review.
No, Sean, I was able to bring up the document, so it is on the screen.
Great, thanks, Casey.
Sure.
Are there any residents who have any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I can't see, so I don't know.
This is Margie. I have just one comment, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I thank you. I have just been reading some information just from some surrounding municipalities. And one of the memos that came out from their finance department, it was just stated that because of the time lag between a worker earning the money and the taxes actually being dispersed back to the taxing districts, that they anticipated not seeing the reduced cash flow until August. So I don't know if that's, that if our township would agree with that statement. But this was a memo back in May. So just wanted to maybe put you on notice that maybe we'll take a big hit in August, perhaps. Just something to look out for.
I can respond to that. I think what they were referring to was the July 15th pushback on the 2019 tax filing. We did anticipate some obvious difference because April 15th versus July 15th for those different receipts. So I think that's what they're referring to.
Casey, do you know if July's earned income tax was similar to July of 2019 in terms of collection?
Yeah, we actually just got that report, I think just a few days ago. And from what Keystone's reporting, we are, and don't quote me, but I think we were about a $60,000 difference from, we were down $60,000 from July 2019 to July 2020. So again, given we're in the middle of a pandemic and economic cratering of the country, the July report did not seem that bad to me.
We just need to maintain some, like I said, a keen eye on what happens to receipts here in the next month or two, because if we do see $60,000 a month shortfall, then obviously we might want to take some additional action on expenses, and we can't wait too long because you run out of time.
Right, exactly.
Casey, do you have a general idea? Could you, that $60,000 deficit compared to last year, what percent is that of that for that particular period of time? Are we talking 1%, 2%? Can you estimate what percentages declined from last year, would you say?
I don't have that report in front of me. I can send that out tomorrow to the board, but
okay.
We collect between $7.5 and $7.9 million a year in earned income tax. So, I mean, $60,000 is a lot of money, but it's a small percent on a monthly basis.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we are able to move on now to item number 13. waste and recycling contract extension discussion, various staff. Who will take
Yeah,
the lead
again,
on that?
Dave and Lisa is with us as well. She's our waste and recycling coordinator.
Yeah,
Throw in with any comments. Per our contract, by September 30th, we have to receive a notice from Republic, which is currently our trash and recycling contractor, with an increase for the following year. Because state law, when we bid this, required allowed for a 3-year base contract with 2 one-year extensions. So we're currently in the 1-year extension of 2, so we're in the 4th year of the contract. Again, we have until September 30th by the contract to receive that renewal notice from Republic. As far as I know, they do want to continue, obviously, providing the service to us, and we're very late in the day to bid this out. And you know, I monitor the traffic from Republic about service in the township, as does Lisa on a daily basis. They're still providing us excellent service, especially compared with our maybe previous provider that we had before. So again, I don't have the percent request yet. We should be receiving that soon. So I just wanted to get this in front of you. We're not looking for an extension yet from the board, just to get this on your radar that next month you're going to have to either next month or in October you'll have to act on continuing the contract for the final year. Or we go out to a quick bid, which I don't recommend at this time due to COVID and the excellent service that we're receiving. And we will get ready for a 2021 bid for service starting in 2022 once that happens.
This is Robin. Hi, can you just give us a sense from your perspective of how Public is doing in our township?
I'm sorry, was that directed to me or Lisa?
To Lisa.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, you kind of broke up. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I just was wondering if you could give us an overview of how Republic is being perceived by our residents.
Like Casey said, with the contracts before this, Republic is being received very well. The residents really like them. The streets are nice and neat. Toters lined up. We're fully automated. Like that also, there's not trash blowing all over. So, I mean, it's worked out really well.
Okay, good. I get the same reaction from some of my neighbors that live in cul-de-sacs, and they're impeccably replaced, the toters. Like nobody, you know, like somebody in their own home placed them there again.
Exactly.
So that's good to know. I mean, I think we've been noticing that their service is a lot better than the prior contractor. And I remember calling you multiple times, telling you that my toters were laying on the highway, Westtown Road. So I just want to make sure everyone here who could hear what we know about Republic thus far, and a reason why we want to continue at this point, I think, in that renewal.
I just want to make one comment really for Casey and Derek's benefit. So this is the final year of this particular contract, and one of the things that stands out to me is how, you know, we have to wait until September to get or late September to get the proposed increase in these year 4 and year 5 for the contract year, the pricing. I think when we negotiate another contract next year, when we go out for bid, if that's what happens and we don't do one this year, we should try to establish a contract that asks for that pricing by the middle of the year. So if we don't like it, we have more time to negotiate on it. And if we decide we still don't like it after that, we can then have time to allow ourselves to go out to bid. When you're up to the end of September, you really don't have much time to execute a bid process if we do want to change for whatever reason.
Yeah, we'll check that, Sean. I'm hesitant though, because it may be a requirement in the Act 101 waste and recycling law. But again, the first 3 years, and again, I have to note a caveat. The law changed, Act 101 changed midstream with us with this contract. So the initial term, I believe, is for the next contract will be 5 years, which with an opt-out, we don't have to keep a horrible trash service here, obviously, but we'll check into that for sure to see if we can move it up to. I mean, it takes us 6 to 7 months to get the bid ready, bid it, and then deliver the new toter. So it's quite an operation. So we will look at that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is just an FYI for now.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for putting it together. All right, now that item number 14, resolution 11-2020, 2021 pension MMO. Minimum, I always don't remember the middle.
Minimum municipal obligation.
Municipal obligation, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Casey, you're gonna lead
Sure.
it?
Yeah, we're actually bringing this to you early. This is required by law to be adopted by the board by September 30th of each year for the following year's budget. But due to the changes we have several variables that go into this calculation, and the calculation is done by the township actuary, which is Conrad Siegel, on an annual basis for us. We just put the numbers into the resolution then. It's a significant increase from last year, and it's because of several variables. First of all, this year the mortality table, which is used by the actuary, it's essentially longevity of human beings, changed. Obviously, not obviously, we are living longer, so the calculation on an average pension has to be extended. So that, in a negative way, hit our MMO. The investments are used as of effective 1/1/19. At the very end of 2018, in December of 18, I remember this very well at our pension committee meetings. It was one of the biggest downturns in the stock market in about 10 years, and since the Great Recession. So that is greatly negatively affecting this MMO because they use the valuation from 2 years ago. Once we get into next year, this will be recalculated again, and we should see better numbers in our MMO. The other variable was the board, I guess 3 years ago now, adopted non-uniform contributions to the pensions with a higher benefit. So that calculation now is in effect. So the non-uniforms, so the sewer employees and the admin roads have been contributing for 3 years, but it's now impacting the MMO. So you have those 3 variables negatively affecting the amount of money essentially we have to put into the pensions. But if you look at the resolution, before 3 years ago, if you go down to the police pension line in the now therefore section, with the financial requirements, that's the overall number that is needed to be put into the pension. You see a different number on the MMO. That's the difference in that number, the $150,000 or $60,000 is employee contributions. If you go up to the admin and roads and sewer employees, the financial requirements and the MMO used to be exactly the same number because there was no employee contribution. So with all of us now contributing, we are reducing the MMO to the plan. And over time, we will get to a better position with all of our contributions because we're across the board will be at 5% contributions to salary. So that will positively affect the pension in coming years. And that was just a quick rough overview. If any board members have any questions.
No questions. I thought it was a good presentation, Casey. Yeah. Thank you. And I'd like to make the motion that we adopt the resolution 11/2020.
I'll second the motion, but I do have a question for Casey, and that is, so for our 2021 budget, are you saying that those MMOs for the 3 pension funds will be part of our budget in terms of transfers to the pensions?
Yes, I'm sorry. That is the intent of the resolution every year, so we can use it as the budget placeholder for the following year. So yes, those numbers will be put into the budget after approval by the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any public comment?
Hi, it's Margie. I have a clarification for Mr. Lalonde, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I had always thought that the difference between the high number and the low number, so the total financial requirement, I thought that difference was coming from the state, because don't we get money every year from the state towards our pensions?
We do. That is included in the, that's an offset, but that number is not directly referenced in this resolution. We have a minimum municipal obligation on each of the plans. We do get state aid that does offset that total number. So the numbers you see as the MMO for each of the plans is not all township tax money. It's a mix, but the resolution is not required to show that state aid, because the state aid actually is not allocated until I think the very end of the year. So we don't know that for the budget per se. We have an estimate, but we don't receive that in time. I'm not even sure for the November preliminary budget. So we have to put in the MMO number and what is offset by state aid, because it's set by the state, obviously. We don't know that until very late in the budget process.
Okay, and then also, 2 years ago, at the end of 2018, it doesn't say it was an amended resolution, but there was a different resolution, a follow-up resolution made in December that decreased the MMO. Is there any chance that could happen where these numbers would be reduced?
I have no idea at this moment. I can't answer that.
Okay, and then I would just like to say to the board, I think looking at next year's budget, it's just time to increase the non-uniforms contribution to the pension plan. The police officers are required to pay I think it's a state requirement of 5% of their salary into their pension. And I do think fairness issue and just budgetary reasons that non-union employees need to contribute 5% as well. And that would reduce taxpayer the difference. So just keep that in mind, that I will be requesting that or suggesting that come budget season. Thank you.
Okay, just to answer your questions, there is no state requirement for any contribution by police officers. There are some unions that pay 2%, some pay none. It's up to the Board of Supervisors at the municipality to set that in agreement with the union. And we are on course to go to 5%. We're currently in year 3, so we're at 3%. Next year will be 4%. And the year after that will be 5%. So we'll be at the same level in 2 years with the police.
Okay, but we could accelerate that possibly because that's not written anywhere that it was only going to be 1% a year. I mean, the board.
No, it's up to the board to do that, but that would be a major hit for our employees, for their paychecks. So that was the agreement when the board authorized the ordinance 3 years ago.
I don't recall it that way, but okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're on I'm sorry, got a little distracted here.
We have a motion and a second to approve the MMO. Robin first.
And we had our public comment. Okay. I'll go ahead with, I'll start with I, Robin. Ashley?
Aye.
John?
Sean or John?
John, Mr. Hellman, where are you? There you are.
Aye.
You said aye. Okay, great. Hugh?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 15, discussion and possible adoption of resolution 12-2020, records destruction for the Township Police Department.
Yeah, this is just a normal housekeeping item. We have a list of records from the police department that, per the records retention schedule, are ready for destruction. You have the department files listed on the back. Everything from 2017 report requests all the way down. Let's see what's the oldest. 1999 victim arrest files, which are closed cases. And there's by law no reason to retain those. So we're just trying to free up some space in storage in the police department.
Make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
I'll second it.
Maybe not. Was there a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay.
Did Chief Gleason sign off on the record destruction? Is that his signature on the page?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yep, that is Chief Gleason's signature at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
He's cleaning out his desk.
Is there a motion and a second? Are we taking?
There's a motion and a second.
Okay,
Is there
Robin,
any callers that have a question, comment? No.
This is Doug. Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, Lisa. Yes. I was concerned about the records from 2014, the accident reports, but it looks like they are the non-fatal. So I'm okay with it. Go ahead, please.
Okay, any other public comment?
I just had one question. Is this on a regular maintenance schedule that the reports enter, they reach a certain age, they should be destroyed or can be destroyed? How does that work? And what's the protocol? Maybe Chief, if you could shed some light on that.
Sure. The Records Retention Act allows us to purge old records that are administrative in nature, task-oriented, short terms, those kinds of things. So there's 4 different types based on the state archives, which is transitory, short-term, long-term, and permanent. None of the permanents ever go. And I'll just give you a criminal example would be a homicide investigation case because the appeals could go on forever. So none of those cases are ever purged or destroyed. But like old citations where they've been paid through the court process and so forth, there's really no reason for us to keep them. Expungement orders and those expungement records and so forth, we're required to destroy them. So that's part of the process, but it is a standard operating procedure for us.
Is there a regular protocol that once certain records reach a certain age, that's the time for them to be destroyed? I mean, is that a normal routine procedure?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, John, you'll see resolutions like this from our side, from finance mostly, and also police on a once or twice a year basis.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, I saw something here from 1999, so it seemed like it was been around for a while.
Victims' cases are usually retained for 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other callers who have any comments? All right, hearing none, we'll go through the roll call. John, you want to start?
Yes, aye.
Hugh?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Ashley?
aye.
Robin? Robin, aye as well. All 5 of us. Okay. Thank you, Chief Gleason, for that information. Okay, item number 16 is the July 31st, 2020 Treasurer's Report approval.
I'm sorry, Robin, we actually made that addition with the Oak Lane.
Got it. Okay, hold on.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay, so item 16 is a discussion and possible adoption of resolution 13-2020 establishing a 25-mile speed limit for Oak Lane and Parkside Avenue. Who will discuss that?
Again, this is a housekeeping item. Typically, we will receive information from the police department or staff if we find a location that does not have a speed limit sign. And we have 2 locations, Oak Lane from Spruce Avenue to Parkside Avenue, and Parkside Avenue from Spruce Avenue to Church Avenue. are in need of 25-mile-an-hour speed signs. And we have one prohibited turn at intersections, Airport Road traveling south, a prohibited turn of left onto Goshen Parkway. Those signs need to be installed. And Ms. Camp has recommended in the past, we can do resolutions through the year, and then we clean everything up with an amendment to the ordinance for streets and sidewalks later in the year to be codified.
Okay, so we need a motion to,
I was just going to do that. I'll
Okay,
move
great.
that we adopt this.
okay, I'll second that one then. Okay, any public comment?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, hearing none. Let's move through the roll call. Sean,
Aye.
Hugh,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Robin, aye. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the treasurer's report for July 31st, 2020. Do we have a motion to approve the report and to pay out our, oh goodness gracious, I've got my,
Bills.
pay the bills. Thank you. That's what I was thinking as I'm flipping through all these pages.
I will make the motion.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
second it.
Okay, thank you. We'll open this up to public comment.
Margie has a question.
Hi, just a quick question. I noticed that we purchased 2 vehicles, and I'm just curious if that means 2 vehicles are going out of service and if they'll come up for auction here soon.
Yeah, we don't have any new additions to the fleet, to my knowledge. We typically put vehicles out to bid in September, October. So we will have to strip those vehicles of any township emblems, if there are any, and go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other public comment?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Go forward. Mr. Hellman,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
Mr. Purnell,
Aye.
Ms. Gagne,
Aye.
Robin, aye. Okay, that completes the agenda items. Are there requests for general public comment, item number 17, or I guess 18 at this point?
Margie?
Hi, yes.
Lisa, this,
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Sorry, Doug.
yes, this is Doug. I have a comment. Just a reminder for the board. I know I brought it up a few months ago. If you could still please consider an official township honorarium naming for Dr. Robert White. And if you'd like to have some discussions on off-meeting time about that, I'd certainly be open to that. So just a request the board still consider that. Thank you.
Margie?
Hi, yes. First of all, I'd just like to thank and acknowledge Lieutenant Carroll. I had made a very simple request at last month's board meeting about adding some police information on the website, and he reached out to me first thing the following day and had that information on the website by noon. So I'd like to think that all my requests are that simple, and I thought it was a simple request, and he acknowledged it just as I think any fantastic public servant would do. So if Chief Gleason would pass that on to Lieutenant Carroll, that I sincerely appreciate that, and also acknowledge whether it was Casey or Bill Webb, they got the zoning information on the website a week or two before the zoning hearing meeting. Again, another very simple request. that was met. So I do want to just let you know that I sincerely appreciate that. And then just two quick questions going back to March, when we had the 4 officers on quarantine. I've seen a couple documentations outlining how they were paid while they were put out in quarantine, and I would just like clarification on what compensation did they file with workman's comp or heart and lung? I've seen both, that they were out on heart and lung, and then I've also seen that they filed workman's comp claims. So I'm just curious, was it one or both, or how'd that work?
I'm not going to discuss a workers' comp claim, but Chief Gleason, they were just put out. I don't recall. I mean, there was no loss to them as officers. There were no medical expenses. So I think we did heart and lung.
I believe we did heart and lung for the purpose of just in case they were to contract something.
Yep.
Which basically was paying them without dipping into their personal sick time or utilizing any of their calendar time themselves.
Right.
There was no medical claim or anything filed. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just curious because I saw that 2 different emails, and one said they were out on heart and lung, and one said they filed workman's comp claims, or Casey filed workman's comp claims on their behalf.
Police officers, there's sort of kind of an overlap. Heart and lung is an automatic officer involved or duty involved, injury, illness, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Which is a guaranteed process for police officers. But the township still files a workman's comp claim, so they sort of overlap, but they don't double dip. For the best way I can describe it. Okay. Easiest way I can describe it.
And then also I had questioned what I thought was a high cleaning cost from Balfour? And I saw an email where Mr. Lalonde had filed an insurance claim even before they came out. So I'm just curious if we did receive reimbursement through filing through insurance on that.
Nope, there's not a single insurance company in this country that is going to cover any COVID-related expenses. I did that proactively, even before Balfour came out, in the hope that our insurance carrier would cover it, and it was denied because there was no actual loss to the building, although we did expend money to clean the building. It was not akin to the building burning down or a flood, so there was no physical damage to the building, so they rejected our claim, and there's, to my knowledge, no claims have been successfully won anywhere for COVID-related building cleaning.
Okay.
Anywhere.
All right, and that's it for now. Any follow-up, I'll just send an email. And I do appreciate, I've had a few questions for Christine over the last couple of weeks, and she's really Johnny on the spot, and I appreciate her thorough and prompt replies to my email. So just want to put that out there as well. Thank you.
I just want to follow up with the comment made by Doug White. Derek, we were talking about, I think Ashley and I were looking into developing or see what would be available in the way of a policy for residents requesting memorials for those who have passed away. Can we revisit that? I know we got a lot on our plate right now, but if that's something we can take a look at.
So it's done on my end. The research is done. I have a presentation for the board.
Okay.
I can email you guys tomorrow if you so want to. I was merely holding on to it because, like you said, John, we have a lot going on, and
yeah,
when we have going on, I don't like to pile things on unless you're requesting it or it's urgent. But just to let you know, the research is done on my end. I have a presentation for the board for your consideration as far as the different policies, and there are certainly many policy questions involved that you guys are going to have to make. But I will send that to you tomorrow. And I also have a couple of favorites that I personally liked. Interestingly enough, some of the best examples I saw were from Canada, believe it or not. So I did reach out to Kristen at some point last month and ask if we can put it into a format that would, be a format for our township. Because obviously when you're pulling from all these different municipalities, we have to change the formatting and get some policy input from you. But the bottom line is the research is done, and I'll give it to the board for input.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
You're on mute, Robin.
Thank you. Who would like to make the motion to adjourn?
I will do that.
I was counting on you. Okay, do we have a second?
Done.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everybody.
Great. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
We come in tomorrow to sign up.
Good night.
Casey, are you there?
I am. Sign up for what, Hugh?
Well, you got paperwork to sign, right? Or not?
Yeah. Actually, give me a day. I'll have everything for you on Thursday, but I'll send an email to the board.
Okay.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I wanted to put it in my schedule. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
got it. Yeah, I'll email everybody in the morning.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Good night.
Thank you.